Okay, so once again, we're getting ready to preview the opener. A lot of sound issues still, a lot of spacing issues, a lot of stuff, but it's
We're
just a
good.
preview.
Brother, wake up.
Fellow humans, we ask, can we together deliver peace and healing to heart and mind?
Ulysses reheard the words being replayed.
Alrighty then. So then I got to figure out, like, all right, so now how do I actually interweave? How do I actually interweave whatever I was just thinking I needed to interweave, and which has now lost my breath, my mind. Like, how do I interweave, Generation Keeper? Because so what I was doing with that, and I'm just kind of wasting some time for a minute because I am waiting for, or hoping that Bruce Corber will be joining us. I actually have a couple people who said that they should be or might be able to join. Bruce definitely said he wanted to be able to join tonight. And then we had, so we're just waiting for a couple people to join, and I'm going to be watching to see if they're texting or otherwise. Bruce did mention that he had a previous engagement that he thought would be done by 8 o'clock, and he definitely said he wanted to be on, but perhaps he won't make it. And no, so Bruce has been on in the past. He's written, authored an economic theory. It's called the Divine Economic Theory. He is educated in the School of Auburn, Austrian economics, and we're going to begin rolling out a new series that's based on Ludwig van, if I say that right, Ludwig van Mises treatment. He was an Austrian economist that are largely credited with providing perhaps what is considered one of the most truest forms of economic well-being for a population. Best way I can say that. And it's really about looking at marginal value and marginal utility value, and it kind of brings everything into more real value for people that is also found through relationships. So it's very, very interesting, very deep. There was a book that he wrote, was called, if I say this correctly, National Economia, whatever. It was written in German, and he later came to the United States and he rewrote that book under the title in English, under the title Human Action. And Human Action is like a 1,000-page book that really goes through in deep understanding what this economic theory means. And then we take that a step further, and there's a book called Choice. It's cooperation, and it is basically a synopsis of the book Human Action by an author who has studied Mises, and he worked with a number of universities to put out this new book, which tried to make it a little bit more concise and a little bit more in today's language, because some of the stuff that was written by Mises was back in the early 1900s. Very proper English, sometimes very difficult to read because he made some assumptions that you would have already had some academic exposure in certain areas. So there's now a new book that's been written based on his treatise of human action, and I'm reading through that book, and Bruce is going to be joining us, and I'm going to be taking points out of that book that I find are interesting or needing further expansion on, and Bruce is going to help us to sort of understand these theories in more depth. And we're going to be filming those at whenever. We haven't decided on that yet. And then on Thursday nights, I'm going to be showing segments during Ceox of that series.
Oh, nice.
So that'll be kind of a fun way where we're beginning to show we'll be able to do some of our own reaction videos, I guess.
Our own reaction videos again. So what's interesting is I was thinking about the fact that I got to start going back through some of our YouTube videos, and I was thinking of a couple where I think there was one where maybe you and David Day got into a really nice conversation about some I think it was about an economics book, and I think it was David, maybe it was one other one, and I was thinking that there was something about it that I recalled that I was like, we probably need to look for that video because there's something that seems like it might be pertinent right now. So
well, that would be a good one if you can remember what you're thinking it was or whatever, rattle your mind. There's only about 1,400 hours of content to go back through to find it.
Well, the good news is I kind of know roughly where it is, because I think if I recall in my mind, it was on Amanda's show. So I think that you and David had taken over the show one time for Amanda, or she was off talking to the guest, and you guys kind of took her show over. I don't know. I'll have to go back and look through it. So, but that'll at least limit it down to about half of the hours.
Right, exactly. Yeah, David was in a lot of the hours early on. But yeah, no, if you could find that, that's exactly right? Because so the first half of Ceox, obviously, we're really trying to focus it on economics and, rolling into the currency games. And so wait, you've got Ceox up there now. So what is that? Is that just an image like you had your Inspector Gadget image?
Oh, hold on, wrong one. Yeah, sort of like that, but where is it? There it is. So I can actually just fade it out. You didn't like it there?
No, I was just curious what it was, right? So if that's basically that character video, and what do you're gonna have to tell us, like, what we need.
I'll just put it right over if you want.
No, I'm just curious, like, what we need to allow people to do that. That was that piece.
Oh,
remember how we?
Yeah. So I think that what we'll need to do is we'll have to have a way that when somebody uploads an image, our notification system knows that image was set, and when that image is set, we can pull it from the blockchain transaction at that point. So that's kind of what I was thinking, because once we have a pointer to the image, we can embed the image inside of OBS through an external file, and once we save the file, it'll automatically update the file in OBS.
So you think then that people's personal point, by the way, I'm still calling it the point, but so you're thinking that, like, their personal point will be able to not only show the public their contact card, you're saying that will be the same information that can be pulled in here?
Well, no, not the same, but we would have another similar style pointer.
Well, I'm saying, would it be managed through their
profile,
Udicci identity?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, that's cool. So yeah, you're probably gonna have to figure out what the dimensions are that we want for that.
Well, so we'll size it down. Yeah, we may run into some cropping issues and other stuff like that, but we'll play around with it, and we'll try to come up with some guidelines.
Yeah, so like right now, that one that you have is Ceox. That is like just another square right now, because you've got the.
Actually, what that is it is this scene right here. So I just took another scene and embedded it and made it small above your head.
Okay. So then, as we kind of start talking through a little bit of the game, and we'll see if we get to our so by the way, Steven, Nikki and Steven may join us tonight for 8:30. He hasn't confirmed yet, told him last minute was fine, so he may come on. He's a Steelers fan, so I
Yeah,
kind
I
of thought
heard.
that was kind of perfect for the segment for tonight when Sierra couldn't join us. Actually, so Lauren today took over command. Took her command of her unit, so they're kind of celebrating that tonight.
Oh,
That was kind of
nice.
interesting. Never really seen change of command, kind of at the major level. That was kind of interesting. I think we've all seen the change of commands, like the base levels, that kind of thing when we were one time or another. But I didn't really recognize that they did that kind of change of command ceremony, to the major level. I'm guessing they do it at the colonels and all the way up at that point. I
We
was
used to have
unaware
to
of it. So that was
do
cool.
when I was on the drill team. We used to have to do drill for the drill team. We used to have to participate in a lot of those. So
Yeah,
it's
that's what I'm assuming. You probably were a few of them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
it was cool. Like Sierra was able to video that. Anyway, so she won't be able to
Cool.
join us tonight. But if Steven came on, what I was actually wanting to talk with Sierra a little bit more tonight was the overall game. And since that's kind of what this segment is for, I kind of want to start exploring this game a little bit more. And I'm finding it that in some ways people aren't really registering the fact that we're creating a game.
Right.
Right? We're creating a system that does far more than a game, but along with that, we're creating a card game. That's the best thing I can call it, is a card game. And the card game is really, about creating mutual value together. Now, what does that really mean? What does that look like? We really don't know, but we're it's a D&D style, like make up your role as you go and figure out how it works together, but you have to work together to create greater value. So this week I talked to Sierra about a role, and I think I'm going to call it the general trustee, kind of like after the general manager of the football team. And her goal is to ensure that the objectives of the board are met. And I think I'm going to change that to league, but I'm really trying to think through what is the board. Now, when we first talked about it, the board was really going to be the audience that joined us on Thursday nights, and it can be that still. But I really want to start thinking about that each of us would have our own individual board, and we're trying to create, get an objective. But first, maybe we have a cooperative board and we have an objective. So let me ask you, Tim, if I were to just tell you that we're about to play a game that looks a bit like, I think, Canasta, if I remember that back in the day, where maybe I'm wrong, but you laid out, let's say, 9 cards in front of you and you kind of went back and forth, these different kind of card games, where you actually get to create your own roles and characters. So it's a little bit more D&D. What would that mean to you? I mean, what would your board look like?
Man, so I never played D&D. I never really kind of did that. Chess, checkers, Stratego. I think probably one of my favorite games was Stratego. So that would probably put it in, maybe in sort of like that light. But then I go through different. You have the Scrabble boards and but then I come all the way forward to, let's see, what year was it, 2004, the $1 Million homepage. And so there's so many facets of what that game board could look like, because the $1 Million homepage, for those that don't know it, there was 1 million pixel, 1 pixel by 1 pixel squares on this website that people could buy for $1. Some kid came up with it as his business thesis, right?
No, I think that's how he paid his college.
Yeah, well, yeah, he ended up selling. He sold 970,000 of them in three and a half months. In 3.5 months, and which then goes the 1K giveaway. But so what would my board look like? I don't know. It would probably be made up of people that are doing what I would call community heroes or superheroes, and maybe it's like a superhero version of them in the community. So somebody who's out doing cleanup in the community, like we used to do the points system with Phil, And oh, by the way, I was going to ask you. I obviously can't keep up with anything anymore. How is Phil doing?
Oh, he's doing awesome. I mean, he's definitely like he's just falling, being not. I don't want in no way like he's just being swept up. I mean, it's the weirdest thing. It's like when you put your talent out there, which he has done for years, and he held true to his talent. It looks like overnight success,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But he's been doing this for years. So when I say like he's getting swept up into the NFT thing, like he legitimately is. He's finding his own space there. He's finding a lot of success. He's, a lot of new, you hear different projects coming up time and again. Yeah, we should bring him on one night and kind of see what he's up to.
Interested to see what he's up to. So anyways, but yeah, just I think it would be something along those types of lines. It's the maybe like almost more the football card, baseball card of community superheroes.
Yeah, so I'm coming up with this idea like, okay, so what is the board actually? So I start thinking like Ceox. I've got these two segments, and I could look at these and say that these are two people on the Ceox board, right? Let's just say that I look at it this way, is that I would have this sort of segment thing that's running, this series thing that's running, the economic series, and then something with Sierra. And then, but you'd have to have like this measure. And it's like, all right, so I have two people on the board. Maybe what the board is 15-minute segments, or like somehow these are people who at least agreed to come on the podcast, your segment of the podcast, let's say once every X, maybe once a month, right? So now, and you'd have to have like 12 people on your board, or at any time, like 9 to 12 is sort of like a full board. Once you have a full board, that's like you're operating this full board. And once you operate a full board for a period of time, you sort of get a compensation for that, because you're bringing people to the conversation. Right, so you sort of get to make your own board idea.
Oh man,
right?
It almost goes to. So here's a thought that just kind of entered into my mind, and for whatever it's worth, say something like, what if we come up with like a project team, and the project was nothing more than to spread the news, spread a marketing campaign to reach 100 people. The project team that comes up with the best marketing campaign, gets it out to the most people the quickest, they get, so we start putting pots together for something like that.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm thinking, right? So that your boards are like a number, because you sort of want to also, keep your agility. So you don't want to be trying to move with 100 people necessarily.
Right. You want to keep the group small, but manageable. Well, that's why it's so
effective. Right?
Yeah. So there's a reason when I was doing all of the market research for 1K, one of the biggest things that we identified very early on is there's a maximum sustainability for how many squares we could represent inside of an area based on a geographical location. And it worked out to about 256, or it worked out to 250-ish. And the reason why is because of the number of consumers within a certain marketplace. I mean, it was really deep dive into the marketing understanding of who we're selling to, what we're selling to, and because we were so open to anything and everything, it was better to bring it down to a little bit smaller, like that little bit tighter ball, and have a little bit more focus. And I think a lot of that applies inside of what we're talking about.
Yeah, and I think that when we're starting to talk about having 9 to 12, so now that's kind of like the football team, you've got 11 out on the field, right? So if we keep it in that like 9 to 12 is what a board is, and then we start thinking about like, okay, so now you've got a board. Are they, what's the first thing that they're committing to, right? And that they sort of almost like they can create their own little mini economy and see how they do internally, but then they're also competing, if you will, competing against other boards. But the only way you can compete is to cooperate. That means to like get on other people's boards. So like you need to be on multiple boards.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things that I was just thinking is we could have like comments. So if we're on a team, one of my team members comments on another, like on something, we could actually or attaches a file to it or likes, whatever interactions we put to that. Once we have that, we could actually then allow like the other team members to be notified, and the more interactions they get from all of the team members on a certain whatever interaction, then we could actually gain points that way as well when they're interacting as a team versus independently.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Like. Right. So you're interacting on common context, if you will.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, that makes sense. That's kind of an interesting piece, and so yeah. So we've got this idea of getting people on board. We're little examples of it as right now. Tim and I are on board. You're seeing Thursday Night Social. You've got this Ceox thing above me. That would we can consider that as an example of a third person that might be on board, and we could literally have it where, as we've been talking about here, is our goal is to pretty much have 3 people involved in the conversation on the bottom, and then maybe 9 people in the audience. And that way, what you're doing is you're actually making sure that you're all having the same conversation and moving together and kind of playing together. So basically, what we're looking at right now is the Thursday Night Social board is a way of looking at that. Now, ultimately, we're literally saying we're going to be building boards, and we're going to be building boards that help to do things like oversee the economic activity inside of these games, right? And again,
Right.
I'm going to make it clear, it's an economic game. Now,
Yep.
it's funny. I went to again. Hold on a second. Let me just check something real quick because I see a thing popping up. I want to make sure that if Bruce is trying to get a hold of me, that or anybody else. All right, doesn't look like it there. Like, yeah, I was having this conversation. Our PS4 died. We brought it into one of these repair shops, and it was a very interesting conversation I was having with the young man. He's really getting into the idea of repairing at the micro soldering level, like getting into repairing the boards and whatnot. And he's a real, like, he's just geeking out on the hardware side of things, what you can do. And we started talking a little bit about like how blockchain is going to change the hardware side of it. We went back and forth, and sort of like, why does any of that matter to what it is that we're talking about right here? And my answer is like, I have no idea, because I don't know what I was thinking when I brought this example up. But what I was talking to him, about the podcast and this kind of piece of it, it's bringing those. It had to do with this idea of that there's always been these games. I think he played Steam back in the day, but there's always been these games that have been out there, which are sort of like role player games, and people are making their own little economy. And then they go in, there's one game apparently out there that's a space type thing, and you can travel all sorts of ways across space, and you find these other colonies of people who have got together, and they've created this sort of virtual world, and they have their own little economy inside of there, and they have their little tokens that they trade inside of this game. And we started thinking about it, and it's like, it's really, really comical in many ways that these tokens that are keeping track of the game now have actual, like, market value, right? So we're coming out here, it's like, that's what cryptocurrency ends up being in many instances, is just like literally being able to trade coupons in many ways. Hey, back in the day, you had $100 worth of coupons and somebody wanted to buy them off you for $20. You could do that.
Right.
Wait, maybe not. There might have been small print and nobody ever did that. Maybe you couldn't do that. I don't know. But the idea was you could do that, right? If you had something, you're out there playing. Well, think about, like, remember back in the day, the green stamps, you'd go to like the Kmart, and our parents would they'd fill up these books with the green stamps, and then you could go turn those green booklets, those stamps, in for something at the grocery store.
Yeah, or how about just the fact that I have a shovel that has value to somebody else, and they may want to buy it from me in exchange for value? Yeah, I mean,
Well, no, I guess what I'm getting with this is it's very interesting that people are getting sort of nervous about this idea that, oh, cryptocurrency. It's like, well, this is nothing new.
Right.
This is really like all this is the same thing that's been going on, but it's like people are being afraid of it. So, we sit here and talk about creating an economic game. It's and unfortunately, the entire thing that we live in right now, we're being gamed upon. And nobody likes to think about it as a game, but the entire world we're living in right now is an economic game. Right? Yes. There are people who get to make the rules that we never gave them the rights to make those rules. They just decided they were the rule makers. And guess what? We now get to be rule makers. Right? Now, you're like, are you really just going to make a coin just to make it for your game? Sure. Because I know that I could exchange some of my coins to use Tim's shovel.
Well, I was just going to say, how about the fact that maybe there's a process that I come up with that, it has, let's call it, some really good, some really good steps in it, and you want to follow that process. And let's just say that for a minimal fraction of fraction of a cent, you can actually borrow my process and actually implement my process for yourself.
Exactly. And that's I was talking today with my mother and sister, and they're talking about maybe starting a business, and we're getting into like there are processes right now. You could buy Intuit tax services. You can pay that software. Well, okay, if you're willing to pay for software right now, then why not just pay for the process, or take somebody else's process and modify it just slightly to make it yours, and just so you give people a little bit of commission for that process, but it's micro pennies.
Right.
It's micros, right?
Exactly.
But now it's shared across millions of people.
Right.
So we're literally distributing wealth through economic games. And again, I don't like calling it a game, but that's what this is. We're literally having to roll these things out as a game and recognizing that they are cryptocurrency.
Right.
It just facilitates cryptographic exchange. Right.
When virtual world meets real world.
All right. So why are we back to? Okay, I'm checking that out. All right. It's 8:30, and this would be the time that we got into football stuff with Sierra. And so again, so one of the roles that I'm talking with Sierra about, and let me see if I can find it, gave her the title or the suggested title of trustee for the game. But like I said, I think I'm going to change this to maybe league trustee. I want to come up with a better name. So we've got this idea of these boards, and right now we've got like the Maverick board, if we want to call it that way. We've got the Ceox board. We've got the Udicci board. And we can play with what that means as we're going, and we're trying to bring more and more people to talk, and as we get those people to get on there, we'll roll it from there. But then we need people to start to oversee these boards, and then not only just oversee your own board, but oversee a collective of boards who now are playing the game together, right? Because if you're only playing the game by yourself, you just only go so far. When you start to play the game with others, and the purpose is cooperation, and again, that's this. Going back to the economics that Bruce was going to come on, and we'll talk about this. It's choice, it's voluntary cooperation, and that's how we create these economies that are create well-being. So, anyways, the suggested role, or the role that I was offering Sierra, and I'll be changing it, will be the general trustee. She would be responsible and compensated for overseeing game objectives, adding fun, and directing toward board profitability. So now there's got to need to be a little bit more to that, and what is a league? And I don't necessarily know that I want to call it a league, but what am I thinking is, like, first off, you're building your own board, and it's sort of like once you build your own board, you get to those 9 to 12 people who are readily with you on a regular basis. We can keep that it's like, look, if you can keep 9 people with you through 3 sequential events, something that simple, it doesn't have to be a podcast. It could be like Tim was talking about. You're just, okay, we're going to do this thing. We're going to play a game. Everybody's got to respond within 5 hours. Hickory dickory dock, the mouse ran up the answer here. You've done that okay, now we've done something as a team and we can move forward because we've accomplished an objective. Right, so we can create these kind of board objectives, and then we've done that. Now we've accomplished something as a team. There's compensation available for us. It's kind of fun. Then we can start getting into communal objectives, right? So this is where, like, once you've shown that you can get a board to the point of 9 to 12 people working 3 to 4 times together, we start coming around to this game, to this community objective. And now, what's the community objective? It's no longer just hickory dickory dock, the mouse ran up the clock. It is something more along the lines of, what can we all now do together to double our value to one another? Now, there's a conversation to have amongst a group of people and figure out what that looks like, and then go, and you've got a new game going. And these games may just last a day. They may last a month. We don't know, right? And you could probably kick off different games and through the process. But so that's kind of what I'm thinking about right now. I'm sure that's about as clear as mud to everybody. And Tim, I like to kind of bring it back to your Stratego thing for a second. And I always liked the Stratego thing, right? Because you always surrounded like the 1-point player with 4 bombs.
Right.
Right?
Yes. But
right.
left him a way out. You left him a way out, but
yeah, you're like, okay, so like everybody thought you surrounded your flag with the bombs, but no.
You did your
that was
spy.
just a decoy.
You did your spy.
So we sort of need to allow for decoys, right? And
Yes.
fictitious people on our board. Because one of the things we talk about is real people playing fictitious roles. So we've obviously got Ulysses, brother. We've got all these other characters, Ceox, Maverick, right? These are actually characters, but manned by us. In some ways, they're puppets, right? So we need to be able to have like these characters to be able to put on the board. So we should probably have something like 5 people, 4 characters. And the characters need to kind of play that Stratego role.
Okay. Or kind of like Clue in some ways too.
Okay, Clue would be fun.
Clue would be a good one.
Yeah. Okay. So
let's rewind for a minute. Let's jump back. Let's do an instant replay from circa. Oh, by the way, Dennis shared a picture with me circa 1999, and it was in Tim's apartment, and I was like, wow, so many years have passed. But going back that far, one of the things that we talked about at one time was a virtual Monopoly game.
Yes.
And so the whole concept is that we could do virtual shopping, and we could actually have virtual scavenger hunts in the malls or what stuff like that. So there was like a lot of conversation that went on around different aspects like that. So going to kind of taking it a little bit sidestep from Stratego, but going back to circa 1990, whatever.
So what if the characters had to be sponsored by a brand?
Yeah, I kind of like that.
Right.
And
so now, like once they're, it's like, okay, so they're up there, they do something, but when they're interacting, they're basically promoting a brand.
Right. And and so if you start looking at like community brands or even organizations that they want to highlight, so now you could get into co-branding.
I'm going to run out of battery, so I'll hear you. Just keep talking. You won't see me.
Okay. Oh, well, hold on. We're going to take a break then.
Okay. All right. We'll come back.
We'll take a quick break. Yeah.
Okay.
And we'll be right back.
All right. So then, where were we? You were in the middle of a sentence. I was going to lose power, and you
Was there a woman talking in your ear and you didn't know who it was?
no. Oh,
Oh,
but hey, she did text something, and this is kind of cool.
who did?
See
Nikki?
if I can- no, Cheyenne.
Oh, Cheyenne. Okay.
I don't think you'll be able to see this, but let's see if we can. Probably not. Let's see. Can you read it?
No.
No. World's
Well,
first statue of Satoshi unveiled in Hungary.
what? Hold on. Let me switch over to you. Who is it?
It's just a
Uh, uh,
likeness of what a
somebody.
Satoshi might be. And I think it's kind of funny because a
Huh.
lot of people still get confused, like, why do we have fictitious characters? I don't know. Why do we people have, okay, that's what this world does. We have fictitious characters.
Come on, Geico had the best of them sometimes,
Right.
and Budweiser. Yep, I mean, come on, the Budweiser made them famous. The what was it? The frogs and the lizards and what? I mean, the gecko.
Like, I just don't get it. Why do you have to have a stick figure?
Yeah,
Like, because we want him to have we want Ulysses to have a monument someday, and it's a stick figure.
it's made
And the
all
only
out
thing we
of
want
sticks.
and the only thing we want people to know is that it is a stick figure because it's what you use, it's what's available to you, it's what's the easiest. Like, use what you can do. Like, start where you are. The reason we chose a stick figure was because anybody could do a stick figure. So
Yep.
anybody who wants to actually mimic Ulysses, just draw a stick figure. No license for it. Don't worry about it. It's a stick figure. That's it. But hey, I mean, there's now
And just to add something to it, it's the easiest representation of anyone.
yeah, right.
When you see a stick figure, you know
Like,
it's a human
do you
being.
have a
It's
you have a
something. It's a person.
skeleton?
Huh?
Yeah, it's like it looks like they have a skeleton.
Yes.
There's something holding up their skin, right? Like, it's like, and I don't care what is drawn in. It's a stick figure. It's anybody.
Yep.
Ulysses. There's a reason for the Ulysses name. There's a Ulysses D. Constantine. Um, so a little bit of so one of the things that I'm going to go a little bit off script here right now. Well, let's just to be fair, let's make sure that we capture a little bit of this because we're supposed to be in Be Stronger, and part of tonight's conversation about what this one was called Grow Deeper. That was about the new series that we'll be launching, and I'm pretty confident that that's going to get done. I mean, Bruce definitely seems excited about that, so that's kind of cool. But let's actually do what I just said, but rewind it a second ago. Because now, again, I'm having these like short-term memory losses. I can't quite figure out why.
Oh gosh. Oh, age, Chuck.
It's
No.
age. It's age. It's age. Wait, I'm not
Easy.
that old, am I?
Yeah.
So yeah, stick figure for everybody. The road to icon. So one of the things that I really do want to kind of and why I'm looking to get into the design side of things, because as I'm working on Canva and designing these things, and I recognize like I'm making a model of a chain story. I'm not necessarily making I don't know that we're going to be completely, I guess we could have completely animated chain stories pretty quickly, right? Like we could. I'm not necessarily even worried about that as much as just creating a slideshow. We sort of talked about for years having like a film strap, like beep, next film, beep, next, right? We've talked, that's kind of been the idea. So, I'm good with that. And when I look at that opener that we're having, that's right there, and we're talking about the road to icon, there is a fair amount of content already written in the system on the road to icon and some other pieces about this journey where our fearless Ulysses and sometimes fearful Ulysses and sometimes questionable Ulysses. He hangs out with some characters where he is on that road, and we kind of want to get in there. So that's what I'm really trying to figure out, and I'm looking forward to doing is getting that content re redeployed, republished, if you will. Have you looked into any of that?
Into any of the other content that's still on the system.
Yeah, the Road to Icon. Have you read any of those?
I haven't read any of them in detail, but I kind of see them frequently.
Okay. All right.
Just because with what I'm testing in a lot of those areas inside of Ulysses and on Udicci. So
I don't even remember what most of that story was, but that's okay because this is where the legend of Ulysses begins
yes.
on the Road to Icon.
Well, when we
And the
start
Road to
pulling
Icon,
all that together, there's going to be so many things coming from so many different areas because we've got over a decade of writing the stuff and pulling it together. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's just going to always be little updates and edits and re-adds, and it's kind of an interesting thing. So I think we're in a time right now in society where we're going through a healing process, and in the healing process, sometimes it gets like very uncomfortable. There's like a squeezing out. It's kind of a horrible example, but when a pimple gets popped, it's like it's gone. It gets rid of the poison that's inside of us. So I think that we're going through this kind of healing process, and it's one of the things on the other side of healing is reorder. It's proper order. It's realigning. If you go to the chiropractor, it's realigning. You're getting yourself back in alignment. There's a proper alignment to life. There's proper alignment to, there's natural laws. There's physical laws. Get this, there's economic laws. Like, just think about that for a minute. There's economic laws. Like, natural laws exist. There's apparently, like, natural economic laws. Like, seriously? That kind of like, when I read that, I'm like, wait a second. I don't even think I can comprehend that because in my head, the economy is the market, but it's not. It's human interaction. It's human action. The economy is human action. And it's the value that's derived from the economy is based on human action. And when done through cooperation, it becomes stronger human action, which is interesting. Very interesting stuff that I don't think I really ever allowed to just kind of settle in. That I understood that economics was a science, but a science as independent as, say, like physics or anything else. It's its own science, and that it has begun discovering laws in the same way that physics uncovers the speed of light and all those other constants that are mathematically absolute and absolutely impossible to have randomly happened type thing because of the absoluteness. It's wild to me that that exists economically. I don't understand it, but I know I was kind of put here for a time such as this to begin to understand it, and I know that that's kind of what we're going to be doing, through Ceox much more often, and hopefully through these games that it is that we're talking about, putting out right now. But yeah, some really interesting stuff.
Well, it's just like the fact that they're working on technologies that extract radio frequencies from fruit so that they can inject it into water and give you the benefits of the fruit without eating the fruit and water.
Play that one over, rewind. Okay, if you didn't catch what Tim just said, listen to Mr. Conspiracy Theory. Oh wait, except for the fact that it's actually happening, and if you want to look it up, just go look at this. Look at what we're doing with sound.
Yes.
All right, explain that again, Tim.
So they're extracting radio frequencies from fruit. Well, they're working on technology, and I guess there's a patent, right? If I'm not mistaken, I think that there was a patent pending or something like this. But the problem is when they took it to market because they were using fruit or to the for approval, they took it there, and because they were it was such a clean process, and they weren't using anything in the process to extract it. They didn't need to get approval from the proper authorities at that point, so they were able to start extracting the benefits of fruit, like the vitamins and stuff like that, they're able to extract those benefits from the fruit and inject those benefits through radio frequencies into the water or into other things that you could then consume and
All
gain
right.
those
So
benefits from the fruit.
you need to find like a couple articles or two around that so we can get the name of that process.
I
Right.
have a contact in the industry
Okay.
that I'll see if what he can provide, and that said person had reached out to me yesterday, by the way. So
Oh, okay.
and
Yeah, if
we
we can
weren't
find
able
a
to
process.
we weren't able to connect today, unfortunately, but we're on each other's radar trying to connect.
Okay, hold on a second. All right, I see what's going on there. All right, so yeah, if we can find out the name of that process, that's kind of fun stuff. I think that's some of the pieces that we need to be sharing on Maverick, right? That's
Yes.
definitely that type of technology.
Yeah.
I think that I don't recall exactly. We probably need to create a little planning time for Maverick to get through that. I know we have it somewhere. I know it's technology. I know we talked about sound, those pieces. I know we're talking about music
Yeah.
with that. And if we do want to talk about doing like the 7:30 start and a 9:30 end, we could certainly really kind of bring that down. And maybe what we could do is just start with Ceox and Maverick boards, right? And we
Okay.
could actually be like the first board battles or something.
I've got an idea. We'll talk about this further. Yeah, I've got an idea how we could actually utilize VDO to have a lot of fun with it.
Okay. Yeah. So
Yeah.
maybe that's what we'll do. We'll start looking at this. So that's good because one of the things I did want to think about tonight was, okay, reforming what it is that we're doing, so that it's not just you and I talking for this length of time,
Right.
and and yes, we still want to keep it very social and like if you can join, great. If not, great. But we want to start getting those ones who are like, yeah, you're going to be in the audience. Like right now, I'm
Yep.
pretty, I don't know if Cheyenne's still listening. I know that people are listening. In fact, hold on. Now I've got a. Let's just double check that. Pirate Vigilante. All right, we've got
I saw the link for them.
So, and that's kind of thing too. Is like, are we still just streaming back out when we're with them?
Yeah.
Okay, cool, and that's fine, right? So,
Yep.
in some ways, the pirates. Well, we've already sort of put them into Maverick, so the pirates are on the Maverick board.
Yeah. They'll have to be on Maverick board for right now.
Yeah. All right. The Pirates are on the Maverick board. That makes the score 1-0. No. There's no
There's
score.
no score on that because
the score is the number. Well, no. Okay. Technically, they both right. I get that. But if we're gonna go to Ceox and Maverick, like just as the 2 for 1 hour segments, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's cooperative anyways, so that's fine. So it's on Maverick. I mean, it could end up being like unencrypted, could end up being on mine.
Right.
So that way it would be like that same side. So it's almost like the technology side of us or the update side of us falls on Ceox, and it doesn't matter. Right. I mean, it's I got to come up with a good game. It's a board battle of the boards. I think actually had a name for a game a good 6 months ago. It was the budget battle or something like that. Anyways, so we will now be joining the pirates live on the open seas wherever they are at, and so we're gonna just go down for a couple minutes while we jump over to them.
Yeah, we're just gonna go on a quick break. I'm gonna transition over in to the Maverick IO YouTube stream, and we'll be back in probably about 4 or 5 minutes.
Perfect.
Awesome. See you in a couple.